Good morning, students. Hope you all are in good health. Today, we will start Group B of your Commercial Mathematics and Statistics. Now, Group B is Statistics. So, the first chapter of your Statistics, that is Unit 4 in your book, is Measures of Central Tendency or Statistical Averages. We will start this chapter today. So, to start with, let us know what is central tendency. Central tendency is an average or it is a single value that represents the characteristics of the entire data and helps us to compare the characteristics of the given data with another data. Now, what does this mean? This definition means central tendency or the average is a central value, is a value which lies almost in the middle part of the data, and it is a single value that represents the characteristics or the features of the entire data, and this also helps us to compare the characteristics of the data with another data. Now, how does this work? For example, I want to know the average marks of your class. Now, how can I represent the average marks of your class? I will collect all the marks of all the students and then I will work out an average. I will calculate an average and which will represent the average marks or average percentage of all the students in your class. Now, this value represents a central figure. For example, let us take average percentage of your class comes out to be 60%. So this will represent the entire class. Now, if I want to compare the average percentage of your class with that of the higher secondary first year students, then how can we compare or how can I compare? I can just calculate the average figure for their marks and then I compare their marks with your marks. For example, let us take that their average percentage is 65%. So now I can compare your average percentage with their average percentage. So this is the main reason why we use central tendency or the averages. From the definition itself, we find the objectives of central tendency or the question why do we use it, its answer automatically comes from the definition. So what are the objectives or what are the reasons to use central tendency? There are mainly two reasons. The first reason is to get a single value which represents the entire group, and the second reason is to facilitate comparison, to make us enable to compare between the groups. So these are two objectives of central tendency. Now, again, let us think that why do we need a single value? We can just put all the marks of all the students, but don't you think that it will be clumsy and not very much easy to understand when we list all the marks of all the students, and then we cannot just say that the average percentage or the overall percentage is 60%. We will get so many figures. We will get someone whose percentage is 30, whose percentage is 40, and then have someone whose percentage is 80, another one whose percentage is 45. So we will get confused. In order to avoid those clumsiness, those confusions, we need a particular figure to represent the entire group. That is why we need central tendency, right? So now we are very much clear that we need some averages, we need some central value to represent a group, to represent data. Now we cannot just use any figure to represent the value. We cannot just say that any figure or any average is a good average. Yes, obviously we will use some central value, we will calculate the figure, then whatever the result comes, it should not be called a good average. Why? Because there are some features, there are some characteristics which are to be there in a good average or in an ideal average. Now we will go through those characteristics. What are those characteristics? When will we call an average an ideal one, right? So the first characteristic is it should be rigidly defined. What means this? It means that the formula which we are using should be a single, it should be a single formula. It should not be that I'll use some formula to calculate and you will use some other formula to calculate the same thing. Okay? So the average should be rigidly defined and the interpretation should not be different from person to person. It should not differ across individuals. What does it mean? It means that when I say average marks of your class is 60%, I mean that on an average your class have secured 60% mark. Then if the same thing is told by someone else, for example someone from your class only, then its meaning is also the same. Its meaning should also be the same. It should not be different from each other. That is, we both have represented the same thing. That is, the 60% of marks is what your class on an average has secured. Clear? So this is the meaning of rigidly defined. Now the second question is how to calculate. To be a good average, the average should be very much easy to calculate. Everyone should be able to calculate the average. Now the third characteristic is it should be based on all the observations. Yes, the characteristic says that when you calculate the average marks, you should include the marks of all the students in your class. You should not include just the top 25 students and you should not exclude the bottom 25 students, right? So you should include all the 50 students in your class and then you should calculate the central figure, for example the average. Now the fourth characteristics or the feature is that the good average or the average should be capable of further algebraic treatment. It means that when you calculated the average, it should be able to use in some other calculations. The figure or the average which you have calculated, it must be able or you must be able to use it in some further calculations. In our later stages of the class, we will find some other calculations where you will use your average, your arithmetic mean. So these averages should be very much handy and very much capable of further treatment, right? Now the last characteristic here we will discuss is it should not be affected by extreme values in the data. Now what are the extreme values and why it should not be affected? Here just look at the figures. I have put some figures. What are those? So the first one is 2, then 10, 12, 14, 16 and the last one is 50. Now look at here, 2 and 50 are extreme values. Why? Because these are far different from the rest 4. 10, 12, 14, 16 are put in a systematic manner with a gap of 2 each. But when we see that 2 is far less than 10 and it is much distant figure, and when we look at the extreme right here 50 is much more distant than the rest. So we can consider these two values as the extreme values, and to be a good average your calculation or your average should not be affected by these extreme values. If you have a number of values and suddenly you find some extreme value like this 50, or if you are you have just put the marks of some students, then it will be definitely within 100. Most of the marks are will be within, for example, 70, 75, 80. But if we find 100 out of 100 in the series, then it can be called an extreme value. So like this, a good average should not be affected by an extreme value in the data. Clear? So these are the characteristics of central tendency, or these are the characteristics of a good average. When all those characteristics are fulfilled, we can call an average a good average. Clear? So now students, before we end the class, let us have a quick look at the types of central tendency. What are the types? We will learn in this uh, chapter. And the first type of central tendency is arithmetic mean, or simply it is called mean. The second type is geometric mean. Then third is harmonic mean. Fourth one is median, and the fifth one is mode. So in this chapter we will go through each of these 5 types of central tendency. So in the next class we will start with the arithmetic mean. This much for today, students. Enjoy your day. Have a very good day. Thank you for being with me.